This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
Detroit is the greatest!
Straight up light you on fire for a Coney dog right now.
Darren McCarty comes back with Neiman in front of him. McCarty draws. McCarty in. McCarty scores! He makes it to go! Darren McCarty!
Stafford takes, throws, end zone, Calvin, touchdown, Detroit Lions!
I had an epiphany today, and I know how I'm going to die. You're listening to the Motor City Sports Rant on the Detroit Sports Podcast Network. I'm Jason Jarvie. Follow me on Twitter at Jarvie the King. With me as always, John, the Doc, the Phone, Macaroon. Yep.
That was quite a tease, Jason. Why are you thinking about death, man? It's great. It's springtime. The Tigers are playing well. Things are going pretty well around town. Why are you thinking about death?
Well, I read an article actually. It was, as everybody should know by now, I am a new parent. There's an article about the truth about actually being a parent, and one of the things is that you constantly think about death because that's just what you think about because you're trying to basically just not let your baby die. I mean, they aren't self-sufficient at this point, so you're trying to do everything you can to just make sure that they're fine. You know, every little thing you hear is he okay? Is he choking? Is he alive? Is he breathing? And that's kind of where I'm not like super on the super depressed side. I don't need to sit down with the actual Dr. John Macaroon, but this was just on driving here is, I'm sleeping less. So, I wasn't terribly tired on driving here, but I was thinking about a bunch of different things. I was thinking about the show, kind of what we were going to talk about. I was thinking about what's happening tonight and going out with family, taking my nephew to his baseball practice. It gets a point when you're driving that you're just like, I have no idea where I am. And I got on 696 and I fully intended to get 696.75 to come here. As I'm thinking about this, I realized I just passed 75 and I'm like, I don't even know how I got here. And I know I'm probably going to die in a car crash because I feel like I have a functional autopilot that, I can look at. I know you're not supposed to text and drive, but I do look at my phone when I do stuff occasionally. I know
You got to stop that.
I know it's really bad, and there have been times when I've been like, wow, it's been ridiculous. So I know I do have a functional autopilot, but it's something where it's like I don't even know how I got here. Or there are times where I just catch myself like going a certain route, like the route that I was gonna go, I was going home, and I was like, it was just out of my brain, and I was on autopilot.
100%. I understand exactly what you're going through. Now I have two daughters, and what you're going through is what happens when you don't sleep well, when you've got a lot of worry going on, especially with a job and with your family and with a newborn baby boy. You got responsibilities now, so your whole world is different. And driving, I can understand 100% what you're going through. Sometimes I end up from the office here in Sterling Heights at home, and you think about it, you're like, I don't really remember the drive. You just kind of zone out a little bit, and when you got a lot going on, it sounds like you need to drop off that baby to your brother who's out there partying in Vegas and be like, listen, stop that partying, stop that mess, come back here and watch my kid for a weekend so I can go out and have some fun with the kid, with my wife.
No. This is exactly what we expected. We knew that what came with the baby, and I'm not gonna immediately just be like, he's barely 2 months old, and I'm not gonna just be like, okay, somebody take care of him for a weekend. I need a break. This is we're gonna go a period of time. We had a night out like a couple of weeks ago, and that was great. My in-laws watched him for the night. And it was wonderful. And that's all I can really hope for at this point. And it's just something gotta learn to live with.
As a guy, how would you rate how you're doing with your son? Like, are you taking an active role in it? Are you changing diapers? Are you getting up in the middle of the night? Is your wife happy and satisfied with the amount of effort that you are putting into it? Because for me, and what it eventually ended up happening was, I said, listen, honey, I will watch these kids during the day or whenever I have an opportunity, but I'm working 40, 50 hours a week. I got a lot of things going on, so you got to take the bulk of the raising, and I'm going to take the bulk of the earning. And so we kind of got into that stretch where she did really all the changing of the diapers. She did all the putting on the diaper rash and stuff like that. So she did all the work, and I did all the work outside of the home. So I felt like that was a very fair balance because I didn't want to have a situation where I felt guilty if the kid got a diaper rash or some kind of urinary tract infection because, I am a little bit haphazard in terms of things. So just the other day, right, I parked the car into the garage, right? My wife has an SUV, right? She opens the hatch, the back of the trunk, right? So what does the idiot doc do? I go and close the garage on the hatch.
Oof.
She's like, what are you doing? And all we hear is the she's like, what is wrong with you? And I'm like, honey, listen, I got 50 things on my mind all at once, and I'm not paying attention. You asked me, is the door open? I thought you meant, is the door from the garage to the house open? I said, no. So I just kind of haphazardly walk in the door, shut the garage on the hatch, and then you have to kind of try to move the car in and out because the garage door got stuck on the hatch. And that's the kind of stuff that happens to me. So I say, listen, my talent is working hard, coming up with ideas, and earning. My talent is not getting into the day-to-day grind of waking up at 4 a.m. to watch these kids. That's not my skill. My skill is earning and being supportive. And when the kids come, when they come up to me at the end of the night to give you those 2-3 hour break to kind of watch them between the hours of 6 p.m. and 10 p.m. That's my prime time. After that, I'm not really useful. So we've come to that terms. She was a little bit angry with me, early on saying, how come all these women, say their guys change the diaper, they do all this. And I'm like, listen, I'm pretty good at it, but I'm not 100% confident that the kid's not going to be hurt or injured based upon what I do.
Dude.
I'm bad. I'm not, everything I do is haphazard in terms of work.
Are like living in the 1950s, Doc.
It's a great place to, and I always tell my wife, it's a great place to be.
This was you giving me therapy initially, but dude, you gotta help out, man.
Oh, man.
And I know that I can probably do better, but I right now, with working mornings and doing a bunch, I do feel like I'm putting in. I know I could probably do better. I think every guy could probably do better and help out at home, but I wouldn't ever really want to give everything to my wife unless that's what she wanted to do. I want to be part of raising my child.
I was part of raising the child, but it's one of those things where I had to put out a lot. You have to allocate where you put out your effort. I can't be sleeping when a patient's telling me information that's very pertinent, or I can't be sleeping when I have a podcast to do, or I can't be sleeping when, things are going on around me. I can't be on autopilot. So I had to have mental acuity when you work 40, 50 hours a week at your own practice.
Well, does your wife work?
She works from home.
She works from home?
Yes.
Okay.
So there's an opportunity for me to do more. Yes, I could be more proactive, give her more time. But I'm the kind of guy that I don't know where stuff is in the house. Like there's diapers, you need to know where that's at. There's stuff that the kids try to pull on me that they get away with. They try to get away with stuff.
You gotta be more attentive, Doc.
I gotta be more attentive with the kids.
Dude,
no doubt.
you gotta give some attention to your lady, to your kids.
I give enough.
You gotta know where stuff is. I thought I had issues and I forgot stuff, man.
Well, I'm worse. Look, but you're talking to a guy, and we haven't shared a lot of these kind of stories on this very podcast. But I'm the guy that when the alarm goes off, gets mad. Like when I have a home security alarm at my house, gets mad and doesn't know where to cut it off. So I rip off the console from the wall. So that's the kind of guy I am. So I'm not handy. I don't know where stuff is. And second of all, I'm paranoid that even if I do a good job, that I'm not doing it correctly. So I put the kid's diaper on, and it kind of looks funny where one half of her butt cheek's hanging out. I'm like, this doesn't look right because she's wiggling and moving all around. Whereas with my wife, they're so conditioned, she just lays there. With me, she likes to play around, and the kid will just laugh and joke around.
Of course they do that because you never do it.
I don't do it.
You have to actually work up to it. You have to do it a bunch of times to get it right. I honestly had never ever changed a diaper. I have 3 nieces and nephews, and I had never changed any of their diapers, and that's completely changed. I've gone a complete 180. I don't think I'm an absolute pro, but oh god, we're talking about kids. This is a sports podcast.
But long story short, your wife is satisfied with you doing a good job. You're actively enrolled. You're actively involved in raising your kid. Good for you.
I'm trying. I probably need to be a little bit better at night. I mean,
you gotta sleep, of course.
I do need to sleep, but no, I do want to be there. I want to give her a break at times. And I think I try on the weekends to definitely give her that break. But let's stop talking about this. And I know I started out on a super, super dark note, but let's move on.
Okay, let's pick it up a little bit. I know we're going to talk about the festivities for the Joe Louis Arena, for the Palace, what's been going on with the Detroit Tigers in the second half of the podcast. But we got to definitely start with what's been going on in terms of the Pistons and Red Wings and the big, massive difference in the celebrations. I can be honest, I did not tune in on Monday to 1 second on TNT. One, it's a Monday night, and that night usually is reserved for me for watching World Wrestling Entertainment. So I watched that.
By yourself without your kids.
No, they were there. They were trying. They've been trying to get me to, turn over the TV late in the evenings, but we tried to shut it down by 8 o'clock so they can relax, put on their PJs, and I can do both. I can watch a little bit of wrestling, and I can play with the kids. But for me, I was not interested in a Monday matchup, the Detroit Pistons versus the Washington Wizards. And many people are asking and debating, well, why was the celebration for Joe Louis Arena vastly different than it was for the Pistons? All I can say is you noticed the difference. It was an outpouring of love. You had patrons and fans of the Red Wings showing up at 2 o'clock for a 5 p.m. face-off for that epic red carpet to greet the players and such. So you had a reverence for Joe Louis Arena from these fans. Whereas the Palace, it was kind of full. It was a nice atmosphere, but it was just kind of like an average send-off as compared to what the Red Wings were able to pull off. And the way I look at it is, and kind of how I was thinking about it is Mike Ilitch just died in February. So you still have a lot of people that are grieving the loss of the owner of the Red Wings and the Tigers. You had a couple years to prepare for this when the Red Wings announced they were building a new arena. And then I kind of feel like people are a little bit upset that the Pistons are going from a nice building in Auburn Hills down to Detroit. And people are kind of, when I was thinking about it, I was saying to myself, it kind of feels like the Pistons are tenants at the Little Caesars Arena. It doesn't feel like it's going to be a type of situation where they're going to cohabitate. I mean, they're going to have their own facilities and their own stuff, but it just kind of feels like it's the Red Wing Stadium with the Pistons kind of renting it.
That's definitely how I felt, because I got to go to the Palace yesterday.
You went?
And I went with the morning show. We were there. It's just, I don't know. When we got there, we were there really early, and we actually got to go up to the 300 level. There was a closed practice. So the stadium was completely empty. The Pistons were on the court, and they were holding a closed practice. And just looking at the entire stadium from above, it's like, why are they leaving this place? This is, they have invested a lot of money recently into the stadium. Why are they leaving this stadium? It was almost like an afterthought of, the Red Wings are moving. Maybe now's a good time to move downtown. We can kind of cash in on what they're doing. And it didn't make sense. And the whole lead up to the game, it just didn't feel the same. And I don't think there's the same feelings about the Palace that people have for the Red Wings. And I think it may even come to that people have more feelings for Red Wings than they do for the Pistons, and that the type of fan that a Red Wing hockey fan is a diehard fan, and they hold on to and cherish the memories and all the players and that entire team. Where basketball, I think you have a few more, if they're good, they're definitely
fair weather fans.
They're going to be there. If they're not, they can move on to, because I feel like basketball is a bit more of an individual sport. You can follow superstars. You have the guys like LeBron and Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook, where those are guys that you can attach to, but you don't necessarily have to attach to that one team. As you saw with LeBron. LeBron was in Cleveland, went to Miami, now he's back in Cleveland. They're going to love him wherever he goes. And
I think another factor to look at, too, is the roster for the Pistons doesn't have a guy on it that's been there 20 years. It doesn't have a guy that's been there for a winning situation, whereas the Red Wings have a guy in Henrik Zetterberg that's won a Stanley Cup that we've kind of have an emotional attachment to because of his time that he played with the Red Wings. He played his 1,000th game, the last game with the Joe. And with the Pistons, when I look at it is, do I really want to approach anybody from the Detroit Pistons and have a conversation with? I don't feel like they've been marketed appropriately. You really don't know a whole heck of a lot of things that the Pistons do because of the way PR is shaped out. Whereas the Red Wings, I feel like, do a great job of at least indicating and telling us a little bit of the backstory of these players. And it seems like right now, a lot of the press that's involving the Detroit Pistons is negative regarding maybe Andre Drummond's lack of energy, the fact that he's potentially doing rap videos and DJing and, giving him a max contract when many people don't feel like he's worth it. Many people are starting to look at that for the Red Wings in terms of the length of Henrik Zetterberg's contract, but he had a decent season this year, and he's more. I feel like the hockey players in Detroit are more relatable and approachable, and you feel like you can maybe get to know them a little better than you do the players for the Detroit Pistons. I don't feel like they're marketed properly, and I don't even feel like they care.
And I'm not sure if former Pistons really feel, I think the championship teams, they definitely have a bit more of an attachment to the Pistons. But the reason you saw so many Wings alumni is that those guys, they probably think back on their time with Detroit, and they actually think fondly of it. I remember watching the ceremonies on Sunday and seeing, I saw Matthew Dandino. I'm like, Matthew Dandino, like he's coming back? Andreas Lilia? I mean, these guys are coming out of the woodworks. These aren't even like superstar guys. But on the Pistons side, yeah, you had Isaiah Thomas, Dennis Rodman, Chauncey, and Jerry Stackhouse. These are all the superstar players of this team. You're not seeing Mike James or all the random players that have come through with the Pistons, because probably a lot of times they didn't have that attachment to the city.
And I wonder, do you care at all regarding the involvement or lack thereof with Joe Dumars and Kenny Holland? It seemed a little bit odd, and I can attest that they obviously didn't want the fans to boo Kenny Holland, but the fans got their kind of their say in terms of when Steve Yzerman was talking, came out and they were chanting, "Come home, Stevie, come home, Stevie." But we all kind of have to realize he is the general manager of another organization, and he kind of has to kind of toe the line. And I don't really feel like Steve Yzerman's coming home anytime soon. And many people are feeling like, well, Kenny Holland hasn't done a great job recently, but we got to give him credit for the 4 cups or the 3 cups that he's been involved with. And then on the other side, on the flip side, Joe Dumars has just been absent completely for all the ceremonies and things like that since he was fired. And I just wish, I know he's been on a podcast and he's talked about some things regarding the Pistons organization, but his lack of involvement, especially on a night like Monday, you would think he could maybe bury the hatchet a little bit, come back, and he was a big part of the 2004 championship, building that team. But at the same time, he is also at fault for the decline. But you still got to give him credit and respect for what he did as a player and a general manager.
Who's at fault for that? Is it all Joe Dumars? Or is it partly the Pistons?
Why do you think that he haven't buried the hatchet? You feel like because he was fired and the way that it went down in terms of maybe some things got leaked regarding his behaviors?
I think there were just bad feelings kind of on both sides. And you couple that with there were so many other opportunities during this season that they could have invited Joe Dumars back. With Ben Wallace and Rip Hamilton getting their numbers retired, they could have invited him back for that. And I don't know if that's him not coming back or if that's the Pistons not, extending an offer. Because I think the Pistons are the ones who need to be the one to extend the olive branch. Joe Dumars, he can take or leave the Pistons. But Joe Dumars means so much more to the Pistons and to the fans than Joe Dumars needs the hassle.
Well, now we know how the fans feel about Kenny Holland. Do you think if he would have been there Monday, if Joe Dumars was in the arena, would he have been booed that night?
I think because of what Joe Dumars was as a player, I think he would have been well accepted. He's a guy, he still has his number retired in the rafters. Ken Holland is a guy who came in and, he wasn't a former player. It would be one thing if it was a guy like Mickey Redmond who, he was a player for the team. And then if he had the success as general manager, then I think he would have had a good reception. But I think Ken Holland, I think he knew that it was more about the players and more about the team. I think it was a good decision that he didn't come out and he didn't have to say anything.
Do you think it's a good decision that the Pistons are going downtown? Overall, many people are saying, well, okay, it provides Tom Gores. It's a money move. Obviously, when you look at it, the Pistons make money. They're a team that, obviously are doing some things well. Tom Gores has invested money into the Palace to even upgrade it from before. And he is even willing to spend more to move the Pistons organization from Auburn Hills to downtown Detroit. So there isn't a financial investment. And from the time Gores has purchased the Pistons, the franchise has gone up, despite the fact they really haven't had that much success on the court. It's a franchise that has gone up in value. But you realize, okay, he's entering into a partnership with the Illich company. Okay, so he wants to be also, receiving some of the funds from the non-sporting activities that are going to go into Little Caesars Arena. And you look at it and you go, okay, You might potentially increase your fan base by having more Detroit fans and have the arena closer to the majority of the fans of the basketball team. You're going to get a lot more money coming in maybe, later on down the line because of your initial investment, being part. Did you read? They're going to have like 200 live events with the Pistons, Wings, and concerts and wrestling, 200 events a year. So there's going to be some big economic dollars flowing through that Little Caesars Arena. And so for me, I think there's an opportunity, maybe not in the initial couple of years, but you might see the benefit of this in the next maybe 5 years when maybe you can attract some free agents, or maybe you have more cash if the cap goes up to attract one big player and offer them a boatload of money. So I see the positives. The negatives, I guess you would say, is for those that have a ton of money in the suburbs in Auburn Hills and Oakland County, you might chop off a certain segment early on of your fan base.
And that's where I would go, is that as much as the fans that you're going to gain for Little Caesars Arena moving downtown, you're going to lose a fair amount for all those people who live out in the Grand Blancs and the north of Auburn Hills. You're going to lose a lot of those people who, they were probably the big fans who actually went to a lot of their games.
Don't you think a lot of those fans also go down to Ford Field every Sunday? I know it's only 8 to 10 times a year, but don't you think if the Pistons somehow figure out a way with SVG running it to maybe move on from Andre and Reggie, or they start over and they get somebody in here that can play the game and maybe is close to a superstar, maybe not a A+ prime superstar, but somebody that can be entertaining and put the bucket in the basket, that they can draw fans if they do have a winning season. And when if you get to the postseason, and I kind of feel like if you put out a winning product, if you put out some entertainment, if you do some things that are a little bit out there, and you have a product that people want to see, I feel like within a year or two, those fans will come back. They might not go early on because next year the team might stink, but if you find a way to put on a decent product, I feel like then maybe you might have more success to draw a lot of fans, even for the basketball side of things.
That'll be the big question, though, is Stan Van Gundy. I think early on we all trusted in Stan, but I'm not so sure now, because I don't really like the way that he's put this team together. He just has a lot of role players. He doesn't have a one superstar guy. And I think that's what this NBA, what this league is right now, is that you need one superstar who's going to be there every single night. He may not carry you and, go off for 40, 50 points every night, but he's going to be there. He's going to give you solid point production every night. And every now and then he can carry your team. And right now, I don't see that player on the roster as is. I think we thought Reggie Jackson was going to be that guy. But, how many years has he been here now? Is this his second year, or is this his third year?
This is his third year.
This is his third year. And we're still hearing about Reggie Jackson being tired. And if ever at a point a superstar is tired, they're not a superstar. You don't hear LeBron James being tired and needing to come out, after 6 minutes in the first quarter. We need a superstar. And then we need to actually surround that guy with people who can, shoot the ball. Marcus Morris, Tobias Harris, John Lure, and KCP, who's, I think, essentially a poor man's Rip Hamilton. And then Andre Drummond, who's a liability on defense. All he really is out there to do is to get rebounds. And everyone wants to say that, he's one of the best rebounders in the league. But if that's all he's going to do, it isn't enough. We need more from that guy. He's supposed to be the center of our team. We need him to be more like Dwight Howard, more like Shaquille O'Neal in his prime than just a rebounder. And the way I think that all he really cares about is rebounding, I was watching the game last Friday when Henry Ellenson got the start. And you saw what that kid did. He was fighting for balls, and there was a rebound or on the defensive side that Andre, he just haphazardly was going to go up and get a rebound, and Henry Ellison stole it from him by actually making an athletic play. And it was almost kind of like Andre's like, dude, it was my rebound. He almost literally grabbed it out of his hand. We need more from the players we have right now, or we need to move on.
Yeah, I look at the Pistons and I go, man, you really had a stretch of time, 7 to 10 years, where there was not much success. And then you have this team that was put together by SVG that we all thought was going to be a 4 seed. And many people say, well, this group is young and we got to be patient. But do you see Andre Drummond getting better? I mean, Reggie Jackson could get better and regain his speed and explosiveness, but many people don't feel like, even when healthy, Reggie Jackson is going to be a primetime Mr. Big Shot type guy. They feel like he's a volume shooter, but they can't make he can't make enough shots to justify being the guy that wants the ball all the time.
And unless Andre Drummond can grow leaps and bounds on the defensive side of the ball and just be an absolute, if he can be like a Ben Wallace, be a defensive player of the year, and then also couple that with Reggie Jackson becoming the true point guard that he is and being able to lead this team, and I don't see it happening.
And what's deflating to fans is when you get a sense and you start comparing. You go, okay, Stanley Johnson in his second year, and you go, oh, he's not as good as Devin Booker right now.
That's the guy.
I know.
I wanted Devin Booker.
I know that he's not as good as Devin Booker, and that's really deflating for fans in that you got a guy that's riding the bench averaging less than 6 points a game, and you go, okay, we got to wait another couple of years. Devin Booker's lighting it up and had performances, and Stanley
Tired
Johnson's
of waiting.
Exactly. That's the part, is that with NBA drafts, there are young, talented players that if you did commit to tank, and I feel like with Pistons fans more than maybe Red Wings fans, and I think the Red Wings fans are catching up to it, we want the Pistons to tank. I don't think that the team tank is a low number. I think it's a high number of fans that realize, look, we don't want to be stuck in the 4 to 8 seed and to get bounced in the first round, second round. We want a clear direction to the NBA title. And I feel like with the Wings and Pistons, their faults are the way you build a championship team is not to be stuck in purgatory, is not to have teams that are going to be getting into the postseason and, being eliminated and getting swept by their opponent. Because look at where the Cavs were, prior to LeBron James. They were a meddling team. They get LeBron James, they get a superstar, boom, they're right back into title contention. They're a 1 seed now for the better part of the last 3 seasons. You get Boston. They went the young route, but they got now a point guard in Isaiah Thomas that's better than anything that you have. Why didn't you get Isaiah Thomas? And you look at the young teams. Look at Toronto. They've been on an uptick now for the better part of the last 3 to 4 years. And so the Pistons stock is very much in decline. And many fans realize, look, if you want to draft 15th through 18th every year, this is what you're going to get. You're going to get Henry Ellensons. You're going to get Stanley Johnsons. You're going to get guys that are really boring, and you're going to have to develop them.
We're never going to be starters.
They're not going to be starters within 4 years. The same thing going on with the Red Wings.
And KCP is barely a starter right now.
And when you look at it, if you're going to pay KCP top dollar and you're going to pay Andre Drummond top dollar, you look at it and you go, this team cannot win with those 3 guys, Reggie, Andre, KCP, making the big dollars. They just don't compete. Look, the Greek Freak from Milwaukee is unbelievable. He's got natural talent.
I'll take him over anybody on our team. And I would put a bunch of scrubs around Antetokounmpo, then put out any type of roster that we've had this season.
Exactly. And so that's what I think the big problem is you have a huge disconnect between what the Pistons are doing and their fan base. And that's why the attendance has slipped. It's ranked low for the majority of this season. And the same thing's going on with the Red Wings in terms of the fact is that they're not competitive for the Stanley Cup right now. And there's a lot of people that are skeptical regarding both organizations. And it's frustrating right now because they're 2 proud franchises that have had success. But right now, the best word you can describe is sports purgatory, where they're just okay enough to maybe compete to enter the playoffs, but they're not anywhere near where they got to be to advance and challenge for a title. Both teams are really far apart.
And they probably aren't going to. They're not going to tank. I don't think SVG has it in him that he's not the coach to be here to tank. If you ask me what they probably should do at this point, if they could get back out of the whole Little Caesar Arena deal, stay at the Palace, let go of Stan, or let him only be the GM and commit to tanking and build the team the way it should be. You save all that money that you would have spent moving down to Little Caesars Arena, and you stay in the Palace, which is perfectly fine, and build your team. And then once you actually have that team that's good to go, that's actually competing, if you move downtown, then you move downtown. At that point, the Red Wings may be like, F you guys. We've had, a couple of years here. We're fine. But then, whatever. You finally built back up your team. but it's not going to happen because they're in purgatory.
The Pistons and Wings both had, celebrations to end their buildings. The Wings was far more attended, far more passionate, and it just sucked that maybe. I know people complained that it wasn't on Fox Sports Detroit. It would have been a love fest for the Pistons, and I can get that for the fans, but I think it was just fine. The Palace was a building that had memories. You can go look them up anytime you want. It had some great memories that people wanted to be involved in. The Pistons organization did an okay job, but not a good job with the Red Wings.
I think they dropped the ball on the entire ceremony. That they didn't really have anything. I was there at the beginning. I didn't stay the entire game because I got to get up at 4 a.m. But I would have assumed you would have seen like some great montage, and it just felt like they were starting a regular game. They played the final countdown, which. Woo! And Dennis Rodman brought out the game ball, which, that probably got the most noise of anything during that whole pregame. But, seeing what they did for the Joe, I think they could have done a little bit more. I think they owed it to the fans.
Yeah, so that's just the way it was, and we'll see how the two fan bases respond to going to the Little Caesars Arena, but both teams got to do a whole heck of a lot. Their key offseason moves we got to pay attention to and what they both do in this year's drafts to improve their squads. So good talk. Let's take a quick timeout, come back. We got to look at what the heck's going on with the Detroit Tigers. A nice start to the opening week, but they definitely have some struggles that we're going to talk about, but I'm kind of impressed. I think that there is an opportunity with some moves that were made, and there is a sense of urgency that I really like with what the Tigers are doing, and we'll talk about them next after this break on the Motor City Sports Rant. All right, Doc here for the Detroit Sports Podcast Network. Thank you to all the new subscribers on iTunes. We checked the reports, and we're definitely getting a lot more downloads, a lot more plays and listens, and it's been largely due to all of you who have been finding us across our various platforms, and we greatly appreciate it. The free and easy way to support our project is go visit our website, DetroitSportsPodcast.com. It's where you can go see when all the shows are aired, see all the great guests, see when the new shows are going to debut. Thank you so much for those that have been clicking through the Amazon banners and checking out all our news articles and things like that. It's greatly appreciated. Check out DetroitSportsPodcast.com.
Motor City Sports Rant, DetroitSportsPodcast.com. Let's talk about something a little happier. Hey, John.
Man.
Hey, John.
As we're sitting here recording this podcast, the Tigers are playing a series versus the first place Minnesota Twins, best team in baseball to start the week. Hey, listen, it's early, but the Detroit Tigers also are playing a pretty good brand of baseball, innings 1 through 8. So far, so good. And even though they've lost a couple games due to the decrepit, awful bullpen.
Only 2 games.
I said 2 games. They've lost 2 games. The bullpen has been pretty much awful, but they are tinkering. And that's what I like, is that in seasons past, Bruce Rondon would be allowed to sit there and go play for a month and struggle like that. This year, where you see a strong sense of urgency, boom, he has 2 awful outings. His miles per hour has dipped. His weight has obviously ballooned. And boom, they say, you know what, this isn't good enough. We can't put you in here in the 8th inning as our setup guy, and you go out there, versus the White Sox and versus the Red Sox, and you don't play well. Boom, they sent him down. Jimenez is up. And I like that sense of urgency, and I like the fact that this team is showing a little bit of grit that first week and a strong sense of urgency. Each game is important, and I'm looking forward to what they do versus the Twins at Comerica Park.
There's really not a whole lot to complain about. They are what we thought they were.
What we thought they were.
It's true. They get some timely hitting. They're able to do just enough with their pitching. Justin Verlander, Michael Fulmer right now look like they're all-stars. If those 2 can stay hot all the way through, we're going to be in a good position. I'm not going to worry right now about the top of the lineup. With Miguel Cabrera and Victor Martinez, struggling at the moment to hit. On the other side, with the bottom of the order, I'm not expecting Andrew Romine to, lead the Tigers in batting average either at the end of the season. But it is promising to see that we're getting production from, unusual places in the lineup, that it's not just going to all come from Miguel Cabrera or, Nick Castellanos. And we're actually going to, this team could do something. The talent is there.
Opening day was awesome. You had a comeback victory. Obviously, the bullpen would have liked to have closed that game out, but hey, you've given up some, big innings from that bullpen. But you say, listen, this team has grit. They have the ability where early on in the season they get down, but they've been used to it. And that's something that you see with the team that's been together before. A lot of this team is the same, and you're seeing contributions from the lower half of the batting lineup. And that's what a good team does, because you would think that, spots 1 through 6 are going to be great. And when JD Martinez returns, he's going to also add some offensive punch. But to get home runs from McCann, to get home runs from Jose Iglesias, to get home runs from that spot 6 through 9 where you wouldn't expect it, helps the club when a guy like Miguel Cabrera starts the season on a slump. So I look at it and I go, it's kind of been enjoyable to watch. Now, there are some things that have also carried over from last year. The defense in the outfield could still be improved a little bit. It is a little bit of a makeshift.
Improved, but I think Jacoby Jones is a very big bright spot. I think he's made some very nice plays already to begin the season that they're gonna probably end up on SportsCenter at some point.
Exactly, and when you look at it, though, Upton overshot, in a game versus the Red Sox, overshot the cutoff guy, which resulted in a run. And it's little things like that you pay attention to in terms of making sure the fundamentals are there in the outfield. And naturally speaking, defensively in the outfield, you could think that there could be room for improvement. And then you say, what's the weakest area of the team? What's the area that pisses off the majority of the fans? You can't have K-Rod going out there and blowing saves. You can't have Bruce Rondon on your squad. And many people are questioning, why did he make it on this team when he came back from the World Baseball Classic looking like, he gained 20 pounds. That's a total lack of discipline. His miles per hour has dipped. And he's a guy that now at 26 years old, you go, whoa, bro, you got to kind of figure this out or you're not going to be on this roster anymore. And we counted on you. But Justin Wilson kind of has stepped in, and we'll see how he does. But with that bullpen, the majority of the players in that bullpen are the same. And you look at it and you go, I'm not confident. Whenever the starters are taken out, whether it be the 6th inning, the 7th inning, the 8th inning, when that bullpen comes out, whether it be Wilson, Kyle Ryan, Shane Green, those names don't instill in me, when we get to the postseason, I really want those guys facing the Boston lineup, or I want those guys facing the Cleveland lineup, or the Texas lineup, or another team that's going to make the postseason. It's not a postseason bullpen. They got to fix it.
And where they go in the season, I think, will determine how the bullpen is going to develop, because hopefully you want to hope that Joe Jimenez comes in here and is able to lock down at least one inning there, whether he's the 7th inning guy or the 8th inning guy. Hell, who knows? Maybe he becomes the closer. But you want him to at least be able to come in and be able to give you an inning that that you can just go out there and he's going to shut it out. And if we get into June and we are actually in playoff contention, maybe we're even in the lead in the AL Central, but at least we're in contention for a wild card spot. Then I think what they should be doing is looking to upgrade that bullpen. And because Cleveland, Chicago, they both kind of showed the recipe for winning in the postseason. It's not just relying on your horses for 7 innings and then go to your setup man, and then your closer in the 8th and 9th. It's using your best pitchers when you need them in spots.
How upset were you? I mean, obviously, when you win 3 of 4 from Boston, granted, a lot of their players had the flu. They were dealing with a bunch of issues. But you took 3 of 4 from the Boston Red Sox, who obviously look like, a team that Dave Dombrowski has touched, where their bullpen looks similar to ours. They got a strong team, a lot of high-priced guys on the roster, but a bullpen that might flame out and might cause a lot of Boston fans to scratch their heads and have headaches similar to us.
Yeah, but their pitching staff is going to save them in a lot of games.
Ooh, Verlander Sale lived up to the hype. It lived up to the hype, man. Verlander Sale was a pitching duel, and it was awesome to see. But they lost the game when they had the lead. You brought in Bruce Rondon, and obviously it went hit, and he gave up. He just wasn't effective enough to get outs. And when you have a situation like that, when you have a guy with a set role, the setup guy, and he goes out there and he flames out, it's really devastating to the organization. But in the end, it was only 1 loss. They came back, they rebounded, and they were able to take 3 of 4. But how upset were you with the bullpen in the first week when they blew the 2? They performed poorly in a couple games.
I guess I can't really say that I was just terribly upset because that's what I expected.
You're used to it, right?
I'm used to them, being this bad, and we knew going in that this is what the bullpen was going to be. They didn't upgrade it at all, and all I can really hope for is that bringing up Jimenez now is going to just kind of give a spark. And I don't know.
Do you think
see less of Kyle Ryan, see less of Shane Green, and see more Jimenez? And you want to hope that zombie arm K-Rod can fix it.
Yeah, it'll be likely the rotation of Alex Wilson, Jimenez, and Justin Wilson that'll take the bulk of the opportunities, with maybe Sanchez getting lower leverage situations. So you got a bunch of guys in the bullpen that you can use for maybe an
yeah, by the way, Anibal Sanchez, he had such a great spring, right?
No, he's not the guy. Low leverage. You classify him as a guy you bring in with a 4-run lead and you need to throw an arm out there. Low leverage, Anibal Sanchez, obviously. You can probably trust a little bit more Alex Wilson, but he gave up some hits and some runs. So K-Rod, it's hard to have a closer that features his fastball at 87 miles an hour. You need a little bit more in the 93 range.
Unless your name is Mariano Rivera.
But K-Rod at this point in time is no Mariano Rivera. And you're exactly right. I still find myself getting pissed at this bullpen. Each and every performance, I go, my God, you guys have not figured out, even collectively, how to get better? I mean, is it just that you're a ball player that just doesn't have enough capability to get guys out more consistently than not?
Yeah, I mean that what the home opener when they're up 4-0, I'm like, I can tune out from this game. This game's pretty much over. And then seeing that they just let it dwindle away, and thankfully we got saved. But I don't know.
But it's a good thing though when you look at it for a squad. You got to win at home. So this week you got 3 games: Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then I think it's an important series and one that we'll talk about and how important it is. You're going to go on the road to play 3 games versus the Cleveland Indians. And what happened, last year in terms of the Indians' dominance versus the Tigers, I think it's important that you at least win 1, maybe 2. You cannot go to Cleveland and get swept by them this go around. Because
at this point, really, you can't get swept in any of these series because I think the way this team works is once you get on a slump, it seems like
it might be hard to get out of it. Yes,
just stay in it.
But this series is more important to set the tone. I think if you can win 2 out of 3, that might propel you to have some success this year. And what many people have said with this Tiger team is look, if you can be consistent, if you can stay healthy, and obviously the injury to JD Martinez was a little bit of a setback, but other guys have stepped up a little bit. If you can be around a 500 team, potentially by the All-Star break, if you have an opportunity to show the organization, listen, give us a chance this last go-around and add a player. Hey, you got some talent on this team right now in draft picks that you could add maybe just 1 player in the bullpen or 1 more role player that you can make a run and see if you get into the postseason as a wild card. Because I don't think anybody right now sitting here is thinking that this team can win the division. But right now you're sitting at 4-2. You're playing the Twins this week where you have an opportunity at home to take some games. And I like the fact that this team is showing some grit and not allowing Brad Ausmus too many decisions that he's got to make, because it's quite obvious, that first go round that I think he might have been overthinking bringing in K-Rod for the home opener for the 4-out save.
Did you think Fulmer had another inning in him? They took him out after 6.
Yeah, those are some of the questionable things that people are debating. But no, I think early on you want to keep those guys in a certain pitch range and a pitch count. So I have no problem with that. I just think that the early decision, maybe when Wilson was, I think in the home opener, was pitching pretty well, you might have given him an opportunity to go and let K-Rod come in the 9th inning. But you realized that Brad was seeing some urgency, but K-Rod, blew the save and got the win on the home opener, which is something that Fulmer kind of got robbed of a win, but because his performance was unbelievable. It was pretty good.
That's all I really want from those top guys on the rotation is to give me quality starts, put the team in the best possible position to win a game, and we're going to be in a good situation.
Any concern at all with Matt Boyd? That first performance looked really shaky. He wasn't that good. And I look at it now, this pitching performance that he has today versus the Twins is going to go a long way. And so far, so good. No runs have been given up. But Matt Boyd is a guy that you're going to count on. He said he kind of understood what he was doing and was kind of forcing it a little bit and was pressing. But that's a guy you need to eat up some innings.
Yeah, and with Matt Boyd, I'd like to see him get his pitch count down at this point because, I mean, first inning, he took 20 pitches plus into the first inning. And already right now we're on the first batter, and it just seems like too many balls get put in play, get foul ball. I think he needs to pitch smarter. I think that if he's going to last an entire season and be productive, he's going to probably have to work with the pitching coach and figure out the best way to move forward for him.
I want to ask you something that people are talking about regarding scheduling. Many people are noticing that, okay, in the Midwest, in the East, potentially speaking, the weather is a factor the first couple weeks of the season. And I think we talked about a little bit about delaying the start of the season. But do you think that maybe not delaying the start of the season, but maybe just having, for a lot of teams in the Midwest and East, just start the year in Florida. Start the year with a couple series versus Tampa Bay versus the teams that are in the South where the weather's a little bit nicer. Like right now, you don't think that maybe with a 2-week advantage, you just start out maybe a series, like maybe 10 games versus Texas, Tampa Bay, Houston, and then you come back and you have the home openers, maybe not April 6th through the 8th. You have the home opener maybe the 15th through the 22nd every year, and just start the year with an extended road trip. Come back and play a lot of games where maybe early on you play a lot of games on the road because it's nice. It was nice. It was a nice weekend, but a lot of times fans get excited about spring opening day. They plan their day around it. They have to, call off of work. And to have a day where it's blistering, we ended up not going. We went to Art and Jake's by the house. We enjoyed the game, and actually, I didn't make the whole game. I got tired after eating and drinking. We got there at 11:30. By the 7th inning, I was like, I'm tired. And the game was dragging on, and it was so slow. I was like, you know what? Let's bounce. My wife's like, yeah. We ate, we drank. By the time it was like 3 o'clock, I was done. And I got home. It was too long of it. It was like what, a 4-hour game.
It's a long time to stay at a bar. I mean, we're not in our young,
we're not young anymore.
Yeah,
not young anymore. So
you can't stay an entire day at a bar.
And plus, it was a little bit boring too. It was kind of a game that we got some hits sporadically, but it wasn't like one of those things where it was like a barn burner type of game. So I almost could have took a nap through innings 6 through 8.
I don't. You could schedule the first.
Should there be some
trips,
consideration? Yeah.
But I don't see the issue with playing in Detroit, in New York, all those East Coast teams, because both teams have to put up with it. It'd be one thing if there was a clear advantage of either one team has a better advantage, but both teams have to deal with it. There's guys who are used to warm weather on every single roster. So honestly, if you ask me, I'd say cut down the number of games in baseball and then push back the start of baseball, and that would probably be smarter. Push it back instead of beginning of April. You're looking at beginning of May, and then you don't ever have to really deal with snow.
So now obviously we're peeking into the NFL draft. Are you a little bit excited about the Tigers and where they're going? And is your confidence level slowly rising with the 4-2 start, or do you want to see another week?
Hey, I was the guy who was confident. I actually liked going in. Remember the episode a couple weeks ago? I was actually excited about this team, that there is hope for this Tigers roster. So I haven't seen anything that I'm like, oh my God, that's amazing. I mean, if I had to point one thing out, I'd say Jacoby Jones, because I like what I've seen so far out of him. And if he can actually keep it going, I think that's going to be a very key piece on this roster. But everything else has been pretty much the same. You know what you're getting from Verlander and Fulmer. You know that Miguel Cabrera is going to turn it around. He's probably going to be in contention for the hitting title this year again. He's probably going to even be in the MVP race. So the bullpen still sucks. The outfield, you lack defense. You lack defense at third base with Nick Castellanos. Until we get a few more weeks into it and we know whether this team can weather storms or if they can make runs, I think I'm still hoping. I'd still say that they're a wild card team.
Wild card team. Okay. I'm looking forward to this week with the series versus the Twins, the series versus the Indians. Quick programming note, we may or may not have a podcast, the Motor City Sports Rant, next week. Like Jason said, I got to be a better dad, so I'm taking the kids to Frankenmuth over the Easter break that they have from their preschool activities. So I think I'm going to do the family thing.
Congratulations.
It's a slower time in sports.
Where are you staying? Are you going to stay at the Bavarian Inn or are you going to stay at the Zender's place?
I think it's the place with the water park.
Well, both of them have a water park.
Oh, they both do?
Yeah.
Okay, now you're revealing.
No, Zenders is. I mean, honestly, if you ask me, Zenders is way cooler because it's like a legit water park.
I think that's the one, but you're now revealing again my attention to detail in that in a family trip, the wife gives me the lowdown as how much it's going to cost and the days I got to take off of work. Other than that, I know nothing.
Bavarian Inn is still solid. I think they have like 5 or 6 pools, and they've added on some stuff, and they have like a huge arcade there too. Both are pretty fun. But if you want like the most out of a water park, the Zenders place is the place to go.
I think
it's awesome.
Yeah. If you say it's awesome, I think that's where my family went. That's why we go, because they have young kids and they go and do the overnight thing. So we're going to go do the overnight thing, go to the water park all day, enjoy next
chicken.
Monday, eat some chicken, and figure it out. I don't know if we did the food part of it because my wife has some dietary restrictions, but I do believe we paid for the overnight plus the water park for the kids. So check my Snapchat. I like the filters, and if you're so inclined, enjoy the trip that I'm going to take with my kids.
Well, you have fun with that, and I'll celebrate Easter the way I'm going to celebrate Easter.
Quick confirmation, it is Zenders. Wife texted.
Hey, awesome. It's going to be so fun.
It's going to be fun?
I want to go too. Can you like sneak me in? Can you give me like a duffel bag and just kind of wheel me in?
You know what? I'll give you the review and I'll let you know if it's worth it, okay? I know it's a couple $100. I'll let you know if it's a fun trip and you can live vicariously through me because maybe I'll put some.
I have been there.
You've been there
I wanna
with
go
kids?
again.
With your nephews,
yes,
nieces?
I have.
Okay, good. What do you recommend then? What do I do there?
You can't go wrong with the slides. The one thing, wave pools are always fun too. The one thing that I really liked is, lazy rivers.
Yep.
And they have a lazy river there that kind of moves a little quicker. So it's not a so lazy river. So you get a little, you get moving, and it's fun to just kind of hang out in there.
Gotcha. Okay, so if you don't hear from us next week, we're just taking a quick week off, and then we'll bring you more fresh Detroit sports content with me and Jason Jarvie, man, the former spare tire of the Detroit Pistons. And he did his thing. He has his memories, and you'll hear more of it. And you can hear more of things from Jason Jarvie by following him on Twitter at Jarvie the King. You can follow us on the network at Detroit Podcast. And thank you for downloading all the episodes at DetroitSportsPodcast.com.
Later, guys.
Okay, nice idiot. F you. Bye-bye.
Good day, sir. I said good day.
All right. Take care now. Bye-bye then.
Loser.